I just gotten back from a 12-month deployment overseas, and honestly I thought the hardest part was behind me. Combat zones, sleepless nights, making calls that decided who lived and who didn't, that was real pressure. Coming home? That was supposed to be simple. Instead, I found myself sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my fiancée across from me, realizing I might not know her at all. We were going over the guest list for our engagement party. Nothing crazy, just family and friends, a chance to breathe and celebrate before the wedding. I had the catering headcount written out like a mission roster, neat and squared away. Raelyn, my fiancée, had her laptop open, firing off invitations. She was in her element, cool, polished, the PR professional who always knew how to play a room. Then she casually dropped a bomb that hit harder than anything I faced overseas. "Oh, I'm inviting Oaklee too." I froze. Pen mid-stroke, coffee cooling in front of me. "Oaklee Clay?" I asked. "Your ex." She didn't even blink. Fingers tapping on the keyboard, eyes on the screen, she said, "Yeah, he was there for me before you were. He's important." I felt that one in my chest. Not like a sharp pain, more like a slow grind, the kind you feel when something in the foundation is starting to crack. I kept my voice calm. Deployment teaches you not to blow up under pressure. "Raelyn, inviting your ex to our engagement party? That's not appropriate." She finally looked at me then, tilting her head like I was some puzzle she'd already solved. "You're not insecure right now, are you?" That one stung worse than the first hit. Let me make this clear. I'm not the jealous type. I don't snoop, I don't scroll through phones, I don't care if she has guy friends. But this wasn't a casual hangout. This was our engagement party. The event where we celebrate building a life together. And she wanted her ex there, front row. "I'm not jealous," I said carefully. "But bringing your ex to this, it's like planting a landmine in the middle of the dance floor. You just don't do it." She rolled her eyes so hard I swear I could hear it. "This isn't your party to control, Blake. Stop acting like you own me. We're not even married yet. I don't owe you loyalty." That line. I can't explain it. I've taken fire before, I've had enemy mortars land so close the dirt nearly buried me alive. But nothing left me colder than hearing the woman I planned to marry say she didn't owe me loyalty. 4 years together. A joint lease. Shared accounts. Nights where I called her from overseas just to hear her voice when I didn't know if I'd see the sunrise. And she had the nerve to throw that at me like loyalty was some optional upgrade you unlock with a marriage certificate. I just sat there staring at her. Processing. Then I leaned back, pulled in a steadying breath and said, "Do whatever you think is appropriate." Her lips curled into a smug little smile like she'd won. She turned back to her screen. "Great. I knew you'd understand. Oaklee's really excited to catch up with everyone." That was the moment something in me shifted. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just made a mental note. Because when someone tells you they don't owe you loyalty, believe them. And start planning your exit. After that night, things didn't just feel different, they were different. Raelyn didn't even try to hide it anymore. She was glued to her phone, laughing at messages she'd never let me see. At midnight, when most people were sleeping, she was working. At 2 in the morning, I'd hear the chime of notifications and her muffled giggles under the covers. One night I asked, "Who are you talking to at this hour?" She didn't even look up. Work. At 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday? Sure. And I'm the tooth fairy. It wasn't just the texting. It was the way she dropped his name into conversations like breadcrumbs. "Oaklee always said I looked good in blue." Or, "Oaklee used to take me to this place." Not we, not I, always Oaklee. Like I wasn't even in the room. Like the ghost of her ex was eating dinner with us every night. The thing about combat is, you learn to read a battlefield fast. Small details tell you where the threat is coming from. Raelyn wasn't even trying to be subtle. She was testing me, waiting for me to explode so she could call me controlling. I could see it clear as a sniper scope. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. Instead, I went tactical. The next day I stopped by the bank. We had a joint wedding account, $15,000. I'd put in $12,000, she'd contributed $3,000. I initiated the transfer to move my money back into my personal account. Paper trail clean. Done. That night, I logged into my email and started canceling contracts that were in my name, the venue, the photographer, the caterer. Every confirmed plan we had, gone with a few clicks. By the time she noticed, it would be too late. I also started looking for an apartment. A 1-bedroom across town, closer to my base. Not glamorous but clean, quiet, and mine. My sister Sierra noticed the shift in me. She came over one evening, catching me boxing up a few things I didn't want Raelyn to touch. "What's going on?" she asked, watching me tape a box shut. I hesitated. Then I told her. Everything. The guest list. The loyalty comment. The texts. The way Raelyn acted like I was overreacting for not wanting her ex at the party. Sierra's face twisted in disgust. Blake, that's not normal. She's playing games with you. I know. She doesn't respect you. I know. So what are you going to do? I stacked the box in the corner and met her eyes. Finish the mission. See, in the army you don't fight battles you can't win. You cut your losses, regroup, and plan for victory somewhere else. I didn't blow up at Raelyn. I didn't threaten or beg. I just quietly pulled back, like a soldier slipping out of enemy territory under the cover of night. She thought she was in control, that she had me on a leash. Let her think that. The real war was already being fought in silence, and she didn't even know she was losing. That Saturday morning she was practically skipping through the kitchen, humming some love song while flipping pancakes. I think we should go with blue and silver for the decorations, she chirped. Oaklee always said I looked good in blue. I just sipped my coffee, watching her spin in her little fantasy bubble. Inside I was already gone. Because here's the truth. Once someone tells you they don't owe you loyalty, every word after that is noise. I wasn't fighting for her anymore. I was fighting for my clean break. The venue Raelyn picked was the kind of place that makes you feel underdressed even in a suit. Glass walls, rooftop garden, a skyline that did all the bragging for you. Fairy lights laced through ficus trees. A saxophonist was warming up with something that sounded expensive. The planner had set white cards at every table with our initials in gold, B+R, as if ink could guarantee a future. Raelyn was in cobalt, of course she was. The color had become a running bit lately. Oaklee says blue is my color. She drifted through the room like she owned the city, touching sleeves, air-kissing cheeks, whispering instructions to the DJ like a campaign manager before a debate. I kept moving, handshakes, thank yous, small talk that tasted like chalk. Sierra found me by the bar. You good? I'm vertical, I said. She searched my face. Just say the word. Not tonight. I took a club soda. Tonight I observe. When Oaklee Clay arrived, the air changed. Not louder, sharper. He walked in with a linen blazer hanging open and the posture of a man who thinks rules were written for other people. He didn't scan the room for me. He scanned for her. Raelyn spotted him and smiled like a light turning on. Oak, she said, crossing the floor fast enough to look rehearsed. The hug went long. The crowd shifted, from polite to curious to uncomfortable. When they finally separated, he produced a small box like he'd been waiting years to make this move and snapped it open. A thin silver locket winked up at her, old-fashioned, a pressed forget-me-not under glass. Her eyes glossed. You remembered, she whispered. Always do, Ray, he said, thumb brushing her cheekbone like he had the right. Ray. The nickname I never used, too precious for the woman who used to roll her eyes at anything sentimental. Guess sentimentality is subjective when it comes in the right voice. I stood at my post and watched the optics. Oaklee's hand on the small of her back as he walked her to the bar. The way she angled her shoulder so her hair fell toward him. The casual tilt of their heads, intimate, practiced. Every minute someone new caught on. A whisper here. A raised eyebrow there. My mother edged to my side and asked, quiet as a church, who is that man with Raelyn? An old mistake, I said, making a comeback to her. Blake. I know, Mom. By the bathrooms, as I waited for a stall that stayed locked a suspiciously long time, I heard two of Raelyn's friends, Jessa and Ratch, talking like the hallway wasn't an echo chamber. Did she really invite him? Jessa. She says she's not sure she loves Blake. Ratch, dropping it like a cigarette on dry grass. She told me Oaklee makes her feel like herself again, Jessa said. Whatever that means. It means she wants her past and her future to hold hands, Ratch said. And somebody's going to get dragged. I stood there a beat, palms flat on the cool subway tile, and took the kind of breath you take before you breach a door. There's a point on patrol where you stop pretending the town is friendly. You don't shout. You just lift your weapon a little higher and start seeing the angles. I walked back out into the lights. The DJ tapped the mic, feedback whining. Time for the toast. Raelyn grabbed Oaklee's wrist, tugging him closer to the main table like she needed him in the frame. In the reflection of a window, I saw us as the city would. The soldier in a black suit, the PR star in cobalt, and the phantom she'd invited to stand between us. The planner pressed the mic into my hand. Captain Rowan? Your turn. I looked at Raelyn. She looked back, eyes bright, daring me to be the man she could call insecure later. Oaklee smirked like he'd already won something I didn't know we were competing for. I didn't clear my throat. Didn't toast. Just spoke. Thank you all for being here, I said, voice steady. Your time matters. I won't waste it. A soft laugh from somewhere. Someone clinked a glass. I held the room. When I got home from deployment, I imagined tonight would be about two people choosing each other. Not contracts, not photos, not optics, just the choice. I let that sit. You could feel the crowd tilt toward me, away from the neon of Raelyn and Oaklee. Sometimes, I said, you plan a structure and a hidden fault reveals itself. If you're smart, you don't pour more concrete over it and pray. You stop the build. You save people from walking into a collapse. Raelyn's smile thinned. Blake, she warned under her breath. I met her eyes. Raelyn Brennan, you told me you don't owe me loyalty. I heard you. I believe you. A low ripple moved through the room like wind across tall grass. So I'm not going to ask for it. I'm going to match energy. I slipped the ring from my finger, plain titanium I'd worn as a stand-in for the wedding band I'd never get to wear, and set it on the mic stand, a small sound that carried farther than I expected. May you find exactly what you're looking for. Oaklee's smirk faltered. And may whoever it is, I added, want it as much as you do. Silence. The kind that tightens throats. Raelyn stepped toward me, eyes hard. Don't do this here. You did, I said softly. Oaklee took half a step like he might make this theatrical. Big man can't handle a little history? I turned my head barely enough to let him know I'd seen him for the first time. I don't compete for what's supposed to be exclusive, I said. And I don't argue with backups. A few guests inhaled at once. The saxophonist put his mouthpiece down. Mr. Brennan, Raelyn's father, had the look of a foreman seeing a beam bow. Mrs. Brennan pressed napkins into her palm until they came away crescent-marked. I put the mic back in its clip, lifted my glass of water and nodded at the room. Eat, drink. Celebrate Raelyn. I looked over my shoulder at the skyline. I'll let you have the view. Then I walked. No storming. No slammed doors. Just a slow move through people who suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Sierra stepped into my path, eyes wet, jaw set. Want me to come? I shook my head. Stay. Someone needs to make sure Mom doesn't murder the DJ. Blake, she said and pulled me into a brief, fierce hug. Proud of you. Of me. I tried to joke. For good posture? For not letting yourself be made small. Raelyn called my name then, sharp, commanding, the voice she used in meetings when she wanted to bulldoze a vote. I didn't turn. The elevator doors slid open like they'd been timed for an exit cue. As they closed, I caught a last slice of the room. Oaklee's hand claiming her elbow, the ring glinting lonely on the mic stand, Mr. Brennan staring at the floor as if answers might be printed there. In the elevator, I finally exhaled. My heart wasn't pounding. My hands didn't shake. It felt like stepping off a hello after last light. Deaf in one ear, light in the chest, grateful to be on ground that wasn't trying to kill me. Outside, the city was bright and cold. Somewhere above me, a party tried to restart itself with a louder song. I put my hands in my pockets and walked to the car, the kind of walk you take after defusing something that could have ruined more than one life. People think the dramatic part is the speech. It isn't. It's the silence afterward, the heavy, certain quiet of a decision that won't be undone. The morning after the engagement party, I woke up to the sound of pounding. Not a knock. Pounding. My front door rattled like it was about to come off the hinges. I checked the clock. 7:32 a.m. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, Raelyn Brennan was standing there in the same cobalt dress from last night, hair wild, mascara smeared down her cheeks. She looked less like a bride-to-be and more like a storm that had lost track of where to land. She shoved past me without waiting for an invitation. Are you serious right now? I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. Morning to you too. She spun around in the middle of my living room, eyes blazing. You humiliated me, Blake. In front of my parents, my friends, my boss, everyone. Do you have any idea how that made me look? I raised an eyebrow. Do I have any idea how you looked? Let's see. You brought your ex to our engagement party. You clung to him all night. He gave you a necklace. You called him by a pet name in front of me. Then your friends whispered about how you weren't sure you loved me. So yeah, Raelyn, I have a pretty good idea how you looked. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. For a second, she wasn't furious. She was cornered. Then she defaulted to defense. You're twisting everything. Oaklee's just a friend. I wanted to show you I'm mature enough to include my past. Stop. My voice came out sharper than I expected. Don't insult both of us with that PR spin. You didn't invite him for maturity. You invited him because you wanted him there. Because you wanted to see if you still had him. And you got caught. She flinched, but only for a heartbeat. Then the smirk slid back on, brittle and desperate. You're insecure. That's the problem. You can lead soldiers, but you can't handle your fiancé having a male friend. I stepped closer, close enough to see the smear of last night's lipstick clinging to the corner of her mouth. Friends don't call each other Nana. Friends don't give lockets at engagement parties. And friends sure as hell don't spend weeks blowing up your phone at midnight. Her voice cracked on the next line. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed us. I shook my head slowly. No, Raelyn. You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped pretending. Silence stretched between us. She tried to pace, tried to regain the upper hand. You think people won't talk about what you did? You walked out like a coward. Everyone saw it. You ruined the night. I let out a short laugh. Raelyn, you ruined the night before it even started. All I did was cut the cord. Her voice wavered just a little. So what now? You're just going to throw away 4 years? Over one night. Not one night, I said evenly. Over one sentence. She blinked. What sentence? I stared at her until the memory hit her. The smirk died. The night in the kitchen, her words like shrapnel. I don't owe you loyalty. You said it, I reminded her. I believed you. And I'm acting accordingly. Her eyes went glassy then, not with soft tears but with panic, the kind of realization you can't talk your way out of. She stepped closer, voice breaking. Blake, I was angry. I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting. Raelyn, I cut in, voice low but steady. Combat doesn't forgive slips. You show where your loyalty lies, people die. Last night you showed me exactly where yours lies. And I'm not going to die for it. She stared at me, trembling. For once she had no comeback. Just silence. Finally, she grabbed her purse off the armchair where she'd tossed it. Fine. Be stubborn. But you're going to regret this. Oaklee and I held up a hand. Stop right there. Don't finish that sentence. We both know how this ends. She huffed, stormed to the door, and slammed it so hard the windows rattled. I stood in the quiet aftermath, breathing steady, the weight of her perfume fading in the air. Funny thing? It didn't feel like loss. It felt like extraction. After Raelyn stormed out, the house finally went quiet again. Not peaceful, quiet, like the moment after a firefight when the dust hasn't settled but you know the worst of the noise is over. I stood there staring at the door, half expecting her to come back and start round two. She didn't. Good. That evening, I decided to get it over with, start boxing up the pieces of her life still scattered around mine. Clothes in the closet. Shoes lined up like soldiers she'd abandoned. A drawer of makeup in the bathroom that looked more like an armory of war paint than daily essentials. The last stop was her desk. Raelyn had always been territorial about it, snapping if I so much as moved a pen. She called it her workspace, but I'd always suspected it was more of a shrine to her curated image, journals, planners, little sticky notes with affirmations written in perfect script. I pulled the top drawer open. Stationery, envelopes, the usual clutter. Beneath a stack of PR magazines something caught my eye. A small bundle of envelopes tied with a ribbon. Old-fashioned. Curiosity tugged, and before I could talk myself out of it, I pulled them free. The first one had Oaklee's handwriting. I didn't even have to open it. My stomach already knew. But I did. Raelyn, I can't believe you're engaged. It doesn't feel real. Every time I think about you marrying him, it's like losing you all over again. I still think about what we had, how alive we felt. You were the one that got away. My hands went cold. I flipped to the next. Saw your engagement photos online. You look happy. But do you really love him the way you loved me? Another. This marriage isn't right for you. You and I both know it. I can't stop thinking about you, Ray. Let's talk when I see you. The last one was dated just 2 weeks before the engagement party. I know you invited me. And I know what that means. We've both been waiting for this moment. It's our chance to make things right. I sat back in the chair, staring at the words until they blurred. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't her making a one-night mistake in a burst of bad judgment. She'd been scheming with him for months. While I was budgeting for a wedding, she was keeping his letters like love notes in a time capsule. While I was fighting through dust and heat overseas, she was laying the groundwork for a reunion. The kicker? She hadn't destroyed them. She'd kept them. Carefully, deliberately, like they were precious. I dropped the stack on the desk, the sound sharp in the quiet room. And I laughed. Just once, short and bitter. Because now the pieces finally made sense. The sudden defensiveness. The late-night texts. The loyalty line. Raelyn wasn't torn between me and him. She wasn't confused or overwhelmed or having second thoughts. She was running a campaign. And the engagement party? That was her launch event. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. I just felt clarity. I pulled out a box, dropped the letters inside, and sealed it. She could sort through them when she came to collect her things. Let her know I knew. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to beg. All I needed was the truth. And now I had it in ink. By Monday I was expecting Raelyn to come back for her stuff. Instead it was her parents. When I opened the door, Mr. and Mrs. Brennan stood on my porch looking like they'd aged 10 years over the weekend. Mr. Brennan's jaw was set tight, the way I've seen NCOs bite down on their anger when they don't want it spilling in front of the troops. Mrs. Brennan's eyes were already red, clutching her purse strap like it was the only thing keeping her standing. "Blake," Mr. Brennan said, voice gravelly. "Sorry about all this." I stepped aside. "Boxes are in the living room. I'll give you space." But they didn't move right away. Mrs. Brennan glanced past me, scanning the house like she expected Raelyn to pop out and smile like nothing happened. Then she looked back at me, voice trembling. "We raised her better than this." I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? "No, actually, you raised her to be exactly like this?" They were hurting enough. They walked in and Mr. Brennan bent to pick up one of the heavier boxes. He grunted, shifted it against his hip, and muttered, "Never thought I'd be carrying my daughter's baggage out of a man's house like this." Mrs. Brennan lingered. She touched the edge of a sealed box like it might burn her fingers. "Blake, I want you to know we're ashamed of her, of how she treated you." Her voice cracked. "You didn't deserve that. Not after everything you've done for her." I set my jaw. She told me she didn't owe me loyalty. I believed her. Mrs. Brennan flinched like I'd slapped her. Mr. Brennan's face hardened and he shook his head. "She said that?" "She said it to my face," I confirmed. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then Mr. Brennan let out a long breath, like he'd been carrying this weight since the party. "I'm sorry, son. I wanted to shake your hand as a future son-in-law. Instead, I'm shaking it as a man she wronged. You didn't deserve it, but I respect the hell out of how you handled it." He set the box down and gripped my hand tight, looking me in the eye. For a second I saw what Raelyn could have been. Solid, dependable, straight shooting, if she hadn't chosen lies over loyalty. Mrs. Brennan's tears started fresh. She ruined the best thing she ever had. I didn't correct her. Because in that moment, I realized I was the best thing she'd ever had, and she threw me away for nostalgia wrapped in Oaklee Clay's smug grin. They carried her life out piece by piece, loading it into the back of their truck. Raelyn wasn't with them, she didn't even have the courage to show up. And maybe that was the most telling part of all. She could stand in front of 100 people with her ex's hand on her back, but she couldn't face the wreckage alone. Before they left, Mr. Brennan put the tailgate up and turned to me. "Blake, I can't tell you how sorry I am. But I'll say this, you're a good man. A damn good man. Don't let this drag you down." Mrs. Brennan nodded, dabbing her eyes. "Please don't hate us for her choices." "I don't," I said honestly. "This isn't on you." They drove away with her boxes stacked in the bed of the truck. Watching it disappear down my street felt less like loss and more like a convoy carrying off a burden that wasn't mine anymore. Later that week I started hearing whispers through mutual friends. People had questions about what went down at the party. Turns out I wasn't the only one who thought inviting an ex was insane. Some guest had already called it the most awkward engagement party they'd ever been to. Word traveled fast. Raelyn's perfect image was cracking. And in PR? Image is oxygen. By Friday, Sierra sent me a screenshot from someone she knew at Raelyn's firm. 2 major clients had pulled out, citing concerns about professionalism. Her boss quietly reassigned her to a smaller team. Translation: her career was bleeding out and the wolves were circling. While she was losing clients, I was getting called into my CO's office. A commendation for leadership during deployment. A speaking invite for the next officer training cycle. I left the building that day with papers in my hand and a simple thought running through my head. Loyalty builds careers. Disloyalty destroys them. By the time the dust settled from the party, Raelyn's name was already making the rounds. And not in the polished PR way she liked it to. People were whispering in group chats, swapping screenshots, dissecting her choices like she was some bad reality show contestant. I didn't go digging, but Sierra did. My sister has always had a sixth sense for drama, and she kept feeding me updates like it was intel from the front. It was a Thursday when she called, laughter already bubbling in her voice. "You're going to want to hear this." I was at my desk, running after-action reports for training exercises, the kind of paperwork that never ends. "What now?" "Guess who dumped Raelyn?" I paused, pen in midair. "You're kidding?" Nope. Oaklee. Mr. Perfect X. He ghosted her 2 days after the party. Apparently told her he wasn't looking for anything serious. Classic player move. I leaned back in my chair and let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It wasn't joy. It wasn't even anger. It was clarity. Sierra went on, unable to contain the grin in her voice. Jessica, you remember her, Raelyn's bridesmaid? Texted me that Raelyn's been crying in the office bathroom every day. Says she made a huge mistake, that Oaklee used her, that you humiliated her. She's in full meltdown mode. I pinched the bridge of my nose, a bitter laugh escaping. She didn't need my help with that. She did it all by herself. Exactly, Sierra said. Then softer, I'm proud of you, Blake. You didn't let her drag you down with her. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the blank form in front of me, thinking about Oaklee Clay. The man had spent weeks whispering in Raelyn's ear, convincing her I was the problem. He swaggered into our engagement party like he'd already won the trophy. And then, when he'd had his fun, he walked out on her without even the courtesy of a second thought. I'd seen men like him overseas. Not in uniform but in spirit. The kind who stir chaos for sport, then leave others bleeding in the wreckage. Through the grapevine I heard more details. Oaklee had bragged to friends that he only showed up to prove he still could. That was the quote. Prove he still could. He hadn't wanted Raelyn back. He just wanted to sabotage me, test if he still had the pull. Once he saw he did, he lost interest. And Raelyn? She'd bet 4 years of her life on a man's ego trip. That weekend, Sierra came by with takeout, trying to lighten the mood. She scrolled through her phone while we ate. Listen to this. Apparently, Raelyn called in sick 3 days in a row. Word is, her boss is furious. Clients are bailing faster than she can spin excuses. People are saying she's toxic, unprofessional, unstable. I shrugged, digging into my food. Actions have consequences. She didn't believe that. She does now. Sierra smirked. The truth? I didn't feel triumph. No vindication, no victory lap. Just relief. Relief that Oaklee had exposed himself sooner rather than later. Relief that Raelyn's double life collapsed under its own weight. I went to the gym that night and pushed through an extra set, sweat dripping into my eyes, muscles burning. For the first time in months, my head felt clear. It hit me mid-set, barbell in hand. Raelyn wasn't the enemy anymore. Oaklee wasn't either. They were just distractions, noise. The war was over. And I'd walked away without a scratch. It was a rainy Tuesday evening when she showed up. I'd just come back from the gym, sweat still drying on my shirt, dinner prepped in the fridge. My life had been quiet lately, routine, almost peaceful. Then I saw her silver sedan parked crooked in the visitor section of my apartment lot. The dent in the bumper told me it was hers before I even caught the plate. My gut tightened. I should have kept walking. But soldiers are trained to face threats, not dodge them. When I opened the door, there she was, Raelyn Brennan. Not the polished PR goddess in cobalt. Not the woman who held a room on a string. This Raelyn was hollow-eyed, cheeks gaunt, hair chopped into some desperate reinvention cut. Her hands trembled around her purse strap. "Blake," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" Against my better judgment, I let her in. She walked into my living room like it was a museum of a life she used to own. Her eyes darted around, new apartment, new furniture, none of the things we'd picked together. She sat down without asking, setting her purse on her lap like it was a shield. "I made a mistake," she started, words tumbling fast, almost rehearsed. "The biggest mistake of my life. Oaklee, he never wanted me. He just wanted to ruin us. And when he did, he left. I threw away everything good for nothing." I stayed standing, arms folded. "You didn't throw it away for nothing, Raelyn. You threw it away for him. That was a choice." She flinched. I wasn't thinking straight. He got in my head. He said things that made me doubt, made me feel like... Like what? I cut in. Like I wasn't enough? Like the man who sent you money from a desert halfway across the world didn't measure up to the guy who slid into your texts at midnight? Her eyes welled. "Blake, I was confused. People make mistakes. We can work through this. We can go to counseling, rebuild." "No," the word came out like a trigger pull. Sharp, final. She blinked fast, tears spilling. "You're not even willing to try? After 4 years." I leaned forward, voice low. "You told me you didn't owe me loyalty. You showed me where you stand. And then you proved it in front of everyone. There's nothing left to try." She shook her head violently, hair sticking to her damp cheeks. "I didn't mean it. I was angry. You always twist things to sound worse than they are. Angry people tell the truth, Raelyn. And you were right, you don't owe me loyalty anymore. Because I don't owe you a future. Her face crumpled. She slid off the couch onto her knees, actually clutching at my hand. Her sobs were raw, shaking her whole body. Please, Blake. Please don't leave me like this. I'll do anything. Just, don't shut me out. I pulled my hand free. You didn't hesitate to shut me out. The difference is I don't beg to be chosen. For a second, the mask dropped completely. Her sobs cut off, replaced by something darker. Anger, venom. You're going to regret this. Oaklee and I cut her off with a laugh. Cool. Final. Oaklee already dumped you, Raelyn. Everyone knows it. The only thing I regret is not walking away sooner. She froze, realizing I knew. You kept his letters, I said, letting the words hang. I found them. Every word about how you still loved him. About how you invited him because you both knew what it meant. You weren't confused. You were conspiring. Her lips parted, no sound coming out. Just shock. Then her tears started again, but they were different this time. Panic, not grief. I opened the door. Take your performance somewhere else. Curtains down. She stood shakily, grabbed her purse and stumbled toward the exit. At the threshold, she turned back, eyes red, voice shaking. I was the best thing that ever happened to you. I met her gaze without blinking. No, Raelyn. You leaving me was the best thing that ever happened to me. The door shut behind her with a finality that felt like armor sliding into place. For the first time in months, I felt untouchable. After Raelyn left my apartment that night, the silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't suffocating. It was clean. Like breathing in fresh air after weeks of dust clogging your lungs. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for another shoe to drop. No frantic texts, no late-night arguments, no tiptoeing around a woman who treated me like a contingency plan. My phone sat quiet on the counter, and instead of dread, I felt relief. I filled my time with things I'd neglected. The gym 3 nights a week, runs at dawn, heavier lifting than I'd done in years. My body remembered the discipline quickly. Sore muscles felt better than sore hearts. Work thrived too. My CO called me in for another commendation, this time for logistics I'd handled overseas. The recognition didn't fix everything, but it reminded me who I was when no one was trying to undermine me. And then there was Harley. I met her by accident on a Wednesday. A coffee shop near base, the kind of place where teachers graded papers and soldiers unwound with caffeine instead of beer. I had blueprints spread across the table, scrawling logistics for training rotations. She sat across from me with a stack of math quizzes, red pen flying. We both reached for the sugar packets at the same time. Her hand brushed mine and she laughed, the kind of laugh that didn't have hidden edges. Sorry, didn't mean to ambush you. No ambush, I said. Just poor timing. She tilted her head, catching sight of the paperwork. That's definitely not lesson plans. Army schedules, I explained. Less math, more chaos. Math is chaos, she said, smiling. I'm Harley, 5th grade teacher. Professional chaos wrangler. Something about her presence was grounding. No agenda, no performance. Just honesty, sitting across from me with coffee stains on her sleeve and a grin that didn't need validation. We ran into each other again the next week, then the week after that. It became routine. Coffee breaks turned into dinners, dinners into long walks where she told me about her students, the absurd things kids say when they think adults aren't listening. The contrast hit me hard. With Raelyn, every conversation had been a debate, a test, a power struggle. With Harley it felt easy. No eggshells, no ghosts of exes lurking between us. Just two people talking like the world wasn't out to win points. One night Sierra caught me smiling at my phone after Harley texted. "Who's that?" she asked, leaning against my doorway. "Harley Matthews. A teacher." Her eyebrows rose. "Teacher, huh? Sounds like an upgrade from a PR queen who thinks loyalty is optional." I shook my head, chuckling. "Don't start." "I'm just saying," Sierra smirked. "Maybe the universe decided you deserved someone who builds instead of someone who sabotages." She wasn't wrong. Around the same time, Oaklee tried reaching out. A random text popped up from an unknown number. "Hey man. Sorry about everything that went down. Didn't mean for things to get messy." I stared at it for a long minute. The nerve of that guy, burning down my life, then tossing an apology like he'd stepped on my foot instead of detonating a relationship. Delete. No response. Some people aren't worth the energy it takes to tell them off. Meanwhile, Raelyn's name was still floating in whispers. Clients gone. Project stripped. She was sliding downhill faster than she could spin her way out. I didn't gloat. Didn't celebrate. I just didn't care anymore. Because here's the thing. When you've survived betrayal, your biggest victory isn't revenge. It's indifference. And sitting across from Harley, laughing about her fifth grader's obsession with Pokemon cards, I realized something important. Raelyn was a chapter. Harley was the possibility of a whole new book. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind of day where the world feels painfully normal. Harley and I were at the big supermarket downtown, cart half full, pasta, chicken, enough to meal prep for the week. She was teasing me about the absurd number of protein bars I'd grabbed when I saw it. 20 feet down the aisle. Raelyn. She was holding a basket, standing beside a tall guy in a designer jacket. He had that polished look, perfect hair, expensive watch, the kind of confidence you can only buy. Miles George, I'd learn later. Her rebound. My stomach did a little drop, but then, nothing. No panic, no dread. Just awareness. Like spotting a storm cloud on the horizon. You clock it, but you don't change your day for it. I steered the cart toward another shelf, hoping she'd mind her own business. No such luck. Blake? She called, loud enough to echo down the aisle. Blake Rowan? Harley's hand tightened lightly around the cart. I gave her a look, it's fine, and turned. Raelyn was already walking toward us, dragging Miles like an accessory. Her eyes flicked over Harley, and I caught that familiar sneer, the one she used on women she secretly envied. So this is what you've been up to. Her tone was sugar-coated venom. Didn't take you long to replace me, huh? I glanced at Harley, who gave me a small, steady smile. Raelyn, I said, voice flat. This is Harley Matthews. Harley, this is Raelyn Brennan. Harley, bless her, extended a polite hand. Nice to meet you. Raelyn ignored it. Of course she's a teacher. You always did like your women simple. Miles shifted uncomfortably beside her. Raelyn. She pressed on, turning to him, voice sharp. Miles, this is my ex. We were engaged. He threw everything away because he's insecure. Couldn't handle me having male friends. That one hit the air like a grenade. People in the aisle paused mid-grab, suddenly invested in the drama playing out between canned tomatoes and rigatoni. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't get defensive. Just looked at Miles and spoke clearly enough for the shelves to hear. Insecure? No. She invited her ex to our engagement party. Spent the whole night on his arm. He gave her a necklace, she called him by a pet name in front of me, and then I overheard her friends whispering she wasn't even sure she loved me. That's what happened. Miles' face went from curious to disgusted in seconds. Wait, you invited your ex to your engagement party? Raelyn's voice faltered. That's not, Blake's exaggerating. Oaklee and I. Oaklee? Miles snapped. Jesus Christ, Raelyn. Is this a pattern with you? Her lips parted, scrambling for spin, but Miles was already shaking his head. You're insane. You set fire to your own engagement and now you're trying to gaslight me about it? I'm done. He dropped the basket right there on the linoleum and walked off, not even looking back. Raelyn stood frozen, tears brimming, mascara smudging like déjà vu from that morning after the party. She looked at me with those watery eyes, voice trembling. Happy now, Blake? You just cost me another relationship. I tilted my head, calm as a man after a firefight. No, Raelyn. You cost yourself that relationship. Same way you cost yourself me. All I did was tell the truth. She broke then, ugly sobs spilling out in the middle of aisle 7. People stared. Some shook their heads. A few whispered. Harley tugged gently on my arm. Maybe we should go, she said softly. I nodded, guiding the cart toward checkout. As we passed, Raelyn's voice followed us, cracked and desperate. You'll regret this, Blake. You'll regret walking away from me. I didn't turn around. Harley squeezed my hand once we were at the register. That was her, wasn't it? The one you told me about. Yeah. She seems intense. I laughed, genuinely, the weight finally lifting. That's one word for it. Harley tilted her head. Do you want to talk about it? I thought about the years, the fights, the loyalty line, the letters. Then I looked at her, steady, kind, no drama in her eyes, and shook my head. Not really. It's old news. As we pushed the cart out to the car, I realized something. For months, I dreaded running into Raelyn again, afraid of what it might stir up. But now that it had happened, all I felt was nothing. No anger. No longing. No pain. She was just some person I used to know. And that was her real punishment. People keep asking me what I learned from all this. Some want the drama, some want the moral. I'll give you both. In the Army, loyalty isn't a buzzword. It's survival. When you're under fire, you trust the man beside you with your life. You don't get to say, I don't owe you loyalty. If someone says that, you stop relying on them because hesitation gets people killed. Raelyn thought loyalty was optional. A thing she could withhold or bend to suit her mood. She believed commitment was paperwork, not action. And for a while I let her believe it. I gave her rope and she used it to build her own gallows. The irony? She thought she was humiliating me by flaunting Oaklee. But what she really did was expose herself. Everyone saw who she was that night. Not my fiancée, not a loyal partner, but a woman chasing validation from the past while sabotaging her own future. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to throw things or start fights. All I had to do was walk away and let the truth do the talking. And the truth buried her far deeper than I ever could have. Oaklee dumped her. Miles walked out on her. Her friends stopped defending her. Even her parents showed up on my porch, ashamed of her choices. Every step she took without loyalty stripped her of another piece of credibility. Meanwhile I rebuilt. I got stronger. I found Harley, steady, warm, drama-free Harley, and realized how starved I'd been for simple honesty. For a relationship where laughter didn't feel like a negotiation. The final twist wasn't Oaklee leaving her, or Miles dropping her in aisle 7. The final twist was me realizing I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel anything. And that's the real revenge. Because when someone shows you they don't value loyalty, the smartest move you can make is to believe them, and then stop giving them access to your future. Raelyn's collapse was public. My comeback was quiet. And quiet wins last longer. So if there's one thing I'll tell anyone who finds themselves where I was, it's this. Don't waste your life begging someone to choose you. Let them go. Let them run. Let them destroy themselves. And when they come crawling back, remember, sometimes the sharpest weapon isn't anger. It's indifference.